Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 90. Eddie Jones has questions to answer, Jerry Guscott has a few things on his mind, and is Chris Ashton headed back to England? You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome back to the pod. Obviously we've all had a bit of time to digest the last 3 weeks, not least of which was myself and Dan, who I'm joined by now. Hi mate.
Morning mate, morning. I'm afraid I'm starting with a bit of bad news, mate. This is not ideal because no one likes to see the Aussies having a tough time with me. But the Irish beat them 2-1 in the rugby test series. We absolutely annihilated them 5-0 in the cricket, and now they've been knocked out of the Football World Cup at the group stages. Mate, it's horrible to see that happen to the Aussies.
That is horrible. I do feel for them. If only there was some music we could play now. But we won't waste our time on that. So, moving on. 2-1 defeat at the hands of the Saffers on our tour. Lots of people screaming for lots of things. So we're going to talk about that today briefly. But obviously we've covered a lot of that already, throughout the test, throughout the tour. So I think certainly I'm more interested in talking about moving forwards. We're moving forwards off the right foot, if you like, because, off the back of a win, that's the way to do things. We're not kind of still desperately trying to claw to get that losing streak to stop. So I think there's a few things that we need to discuss on that front. But before we get there, a little bit of admin. We've had a couple of comments. So on Twitter, the first, Matthew Shaw, he's actually tweeted us before. He's the Kiwi who likes to listen to us, and actually, it's quite an old.
I like this guy.
Yeah, it's quite an old tweet. Where is it? I can't even find it now. Here it is. It's quite an old tweet, so we probably should have gone back to him before the last game. But he just says, "Hey guys, love the latest pod. Keep them coming. They're great company to listen to in the evening. Here's hoping for an England win versus South Africa this weekend, I guess. If not, next week's podcast is sure going to be interesting." Obviously, we delivered, Matthew. You're welcome. England,
it was all us.
England win. Yeah, exactly. But more importantly, a Kiwi listening to us on a regular basis and enjoying what he's listening to, got to love that. So appreciate the support there.
Yeah,
we've also, actually, we'll go on to this one in a minute because it poses a question. So just before we do, obviously, everybody's favourite reviewer, Wade. We've obviously had a
how's this guy still in our lives?
No, this is the last time. We've obviously had a bit of back and forth with him, as you guys will be well aware. So third time of asking, and his 1-star review is now a 4-star review. He's changed it again. Interestingly, if you all remember, he was absolute doom and gloom. Eddie's got to go. England are rubbish. Where do we go from here? Tear it up and start again. He opens his latest review with, "Chaps, things are looking up. England finally win a game." And anyway, he goes on, and you can see it all on iTunes if you want to go and read what he has to say. It's another pretty long one. And obviously, once again, while you're there, drop us a 5-star review. That would be great. So thanks to him for turning things around. Thanks to us for convincing him to turn things around.
But mate, I feel vindicated now.
Yeah.
My life's changed. But Wade, genuinely, thanks a lot, mate. Do appreciate it. The offer still stands if you wanted to chat, because and it still stands for everyone. We would love to actually have you guys involved in the pod. So anyone who genuinely wants to come on, please do. But guys, please email us because we need sort of contact information to be able to get hold of you and sort of chat. So, Wade, anyone else? It'd be interesting to sort of have a chat with. I mean, there's some guys who have been with us and been regularly sort of review us, be on Facebook and things. I mean, one guy jumped behind this guy called Don from America. Don, if you're listening, mate, and you'd like to get involved, please, drop us an email. It'd be interesting to sort of have a chat, or the guy Matt from New Zealand, because it might be quite interesting to have a chat with people looking at it from, outside of the cheerleader bubble.
Non-rose tinted glasses.
Yeah. Why are you now the pun man?
I don't know, mate. I think maybe yours just weren't puns. But anyway, so yeah. Obviously, great that we've turned that one around. Hopefully, anyone else who has any thoughts below a 4-star can keep listening and feel the same way. So let's get lots more 5-stars on there. We haven't had any new reviews in the last week, so time to get someone else up there so we can read out what you think. So guys, head over there, iTunes, drop us a review. That would be awesome. So finally, this question that has been posed to us on Twitter. It's from Big T at Big T _AFC, and he says at England Rugby Pod.
Hang on. Big T AFC. Who does that remind you of?
It does sound like Tim, but I don't think it is.
Yeah. I don't think he knows how to use Twitter. Yeah.
No. He, like you, thinks it's called Twitterbox.
Okay.
At England Rugby Pod, if you asked club coaches and directors of rugby for their reasons for England's dip this year, what does our psychic, and I'm guessing he means you, think they would say?
Sorry. Say that. I can't read the question again. I was smiling at myself for being a psychic.
At England Rugby Pod, if you ask club coaches and or directors of rugby for their reasons for England's dip in form this year, what does our psychic think they would say?
This is what that's a good question. That's a really good question, actually. So I think the club coaches and things would blame it on exhaustion. I think that would be a big part of it. You know, tired after a Lions tour. Sorry, the dogs are getting a bit excited. Tired after a Lions tour. Eddie's training camps have been renowned for being brutally harsh, but physically and probably mentally with regards to the intensity of them. And obviously, there's a full club season. I suspect that would be giving us the biggest reason. How about you, mate?
I don't disagree with you. I wonder though whether when you kind of gave your answer there, it makes it sound a little bit like they're almost sort of blaming Eddie Jones and the England setup.
I think there's a lot of discontent.
I know. I agree, but I wonder if there's also a question to be asked. And we know from Billy Vunipola, I think about 8-9 months ago, when he was talking, maybe it was longer than that with all his injuries and things, but when he was talking about needing time off, do these guys need to take a certain amount of responsibility for the amount that they're playing and training their players during the season? You can't just put it down to an England training camp and say, well, they've just had too much this year because they went on that England training camp right at the end there. There's got to be an element. I mean, you look at the other nations, and the players are rested a lot more, and I know we're seeing more of that now.
But mate, you've got to look at the dynamics. That is a fair point. Don't forget, these guys pay the players. Look at Ireland, you look at Wales, and they're centrally paid. So, yes, to an extent, but actually, they're paying huge salaries for these guys. And these are their sort of golden goose as such. This is what draws the punters in. So if you sort of go into a Saracens match, what match are you going to go and watch? You're going to go and watch a match where you know that Farrell, Atoje, Ronapolas are playing, or the match where you think they're rested. It's a tough one.
I understand that completely, but I guess also if you're gonna go and pick the best English players for your team, your Saracens, and you want a Farrell, and you want an Atoje, and you want a Vunipola or Vunipolas, you also know when you're doing that, when you're offering them these massive contracts, you know that these are going to be stars for the national side. And in rugby, it's same in all sports, but so it's not, it doesn't come as a big surprise. Like, whoa, hold on a second, I've paid lots of money for him. You can't just start using it. That's a given. He's going to be a key part of the England setup. So. Yeah, I get the concerns with the intensity of the training in the England camp, but still, I think beyond that, the directors of rugby, the head coaches, they need to be conscious of the fact that there is player welfare, and it's not just England training camps and England matches that create injuries and everything else. It's the whole lot. It's the whole season. So I'm not saying that one is to blame over the other. I'm just saying it's very easy to say, for 30 whatever weeks of the year, we're going to put them through their paces. But if you want to take him away for a week and put him under too much pressure for that week and something happens, it's all your fault. I don't know. I think then clearly this just highlights that there needs to be more synergy between the two, and I'm not sure how you do that.
Well, firstly, a couple of things here. I'm actually going to stand up for the clubs here. I think they're pretty good with player welfare. I actually think the clubs do manage the player welfare well. I think they could flog these guys a lot more, and they don't. They do take that into consideration. And my second point has completely slipped out of my head. So
clearly a good one.
Yeah, clearly proper figure.
Fine.
But mate, it's a tough. No, this is my second point. Yeah, sorry, I've just remembered it. What needs to happen is we need century contracts and players. I truly believe that. I believe that's the best way we can manage our England players. Is the RFU need to step in, have a chat with the clubs now, and say, look, how can we make this work? Because it's not fair that clubs burden all. The RFU can have more control and say, right, I want these players rested here. It's like, yeah, fair enough, but you now need to start giving us some money, and I think that's fair.
Yeah,
that's my opinion on what we need to do.
Well, there you go. Big T, does that answer your question? I mean, it's not just his opinion, of course, because as you pointed out, he is psychic. So apparently, you heard it here first. England players are going to be centrally contracted.
That's why it's happening, my friend.
Right. Okay. So not reviews, but just a couple of other things I wanted to point out. We talked 2 episodes ago, I think, after the second test. Lots of chat about Joe Marler and Mike Brown and their reaction to the fans after the game, where one of the fans obviously threw some verbal at them. I just wanted to point out a tweet that Joe Marler sent, and I know that it's easy after the event and PR people and everything else, but he just said, "South Africa, you've been great. Thanks to all the supporters, even the one who called me a wanker after the second test. You technically weren't wrong." Which I quite liked. Which I quite liked.
Yeah,
it's kind of,
good for him.
It's what you want to see.
Joe Marler had an amazing final game,
yeah.
To the point that I've got him ahead of Mako as a starter right now.
Yeah, I thought Mako didn't. I mean, you listen to Eddie Jones and you think Mako had the tour of his life. But no, I agree. I think that Joe was pretty special in that last test, and we'll see what happens in the autumn.
Good for him, man. I like that.
Yeah. I liked the response, and when you compare it to the Mike Brown response, where it was all about "I deserve respect," and I quite like the fact
you
that Joe
will
Marler's,
love me.
Yeah, I just quite like the fact that Joe Marler's gone. Yeah, do you know what? I was a wanker, and
I don't think. No, I like it.
There you go. But yeah, good response. So good on him for that. And then finally, just very quickly, don't want to hang about on this. Obviously, we're all watching the World Cup. Is it wrong for me to be so angry watching these games at all the fucking diving around?
Mate,
it's painful.
It's shameful. It is absolutely. And do you know what? This is actually something interesting. I thought this the other day, but I thought you'd lose your shit at me if I start bringing up football.
Well, we're not going to talk about it for long, otherwise I will. But let's quickly go over it, because this one point is.
I think it's disgraceful. I think the reason, and fair enough, we've played 2 poor teams. I think the reason the England team are doing quite well is they've learned from rugby. They're not diving about. Yeah. They're learning to handle themselves with a bit of humility. They're not hounding the ref all the time. We had a few definite penalties, and you didn't. Footballers were going to be, complain a bit to ref. But actually, I think the mentality of the England team right now is coming more in line with rugby, and I truly believe that's the reason that was actually had a good start to the World Cup. So any football fans out there, you're welcome.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said football's yellow cards needs to be like rugby's. They need 10 minutes in the bin.
I like it. Yeah.
Just because I think suddenly you cut out a whole load of all the crap. Also, I think people need to take responsibility for all this faking. And I've come up with a solution, right? So, they all they have the side of their shorts. The side of their shorts gets pulled and they go down on the ground holding their head and rolling around like they've literally just been shot. I just think the referees go, "Oh, you got a head injury? Okay, that's 10-minute HIA. Off you go."
Yeah, no, that's not bad.
How quickly would they stop doing it?
They go down holding their head and we're like, actually, we saw your shorts be pulled. Now this player's allowed to whack you around the head.
Also an interesting take on it. I don't hate it.
I think that would stop things fairly quickly.
But yeah, I just think then there needs to be response. It is shameful, as you said, and and they have to do something about it. And obviously, you can't look at every single one. Games will turn. It'll be like American football. So they need the referee to be able to make a quick decision. And a second thing as well, is it VAR? What are they calling it? What's with the referees running off to the side of the pitch to look at a screen? If you've got guys sitting upstairs looking at a screen, can't they just have a little thing like they did in rugby in his ear and just tell him?
Do you know what, though? Do you know what? I actually quite like that. I wouldn't mind that at rugby. I know rugby it tends to go on the big screen, but it sort of gives the power to the refs more. I quite like that.
Yeah, but as we've seen in this World Cup, it's just created havoc.
Why are we still talking about the?
I don't know. Let's move on. It was all the diving around was so soft. I needed to bring it up.
No, fair enough, mate. That has bugged the crap out of me. So I'm glad.
It will be said for years to come, but football is 90 minutes of players running around pretending to be injured, and rugby is 80 minutes of players running around pretending not to be injured, which I quite like.
Yes.
Anyway, yes. Moving on to the proper game. Eddie Jones is probably a good place to move on to next. What happens next? I mean, the media's making a big song and dance about the fact that he, has been called in for questioning over poor form. The reality is surely that you have to go to, as the England boss, you go to Twickenham after any tour and you have a sort of debrief.
So absolutely, I think you're right, and you pointed this out to me earlier. You pointed out to me because I was sort of like, "Oh, he's got to go and explain himself." But I think you're right. He's got to go have a debrief, and they want to know. He's employed by the RFU. He's accountable to them. Yeah. He should. They have every right to say, "What's your plans moving forward?" But I don't think it's a major thing. They've publicly backed him. I know there's been rumours. So there's an interesting article from Jerry Guscott, actually, on the BBC. Now, Jerry Guscott's one of those guys who, I must admit, I'm not a massive fan of him and his sort of punditry, but I do like this article. Eddie Jones this is where I think the danger is. And, let's make no mistake, the RFU are not overly happy with some of the things Eddie Jones does, the way he conducts himself. But they gave him carte blanche. They came and gave him carte blanche. I don't think you can now change that. I think you can say, look, Eddie, please just be a bit more respectful to the media or whatever it may be. But I don't think you can now bring him in and say, this is what we want. Personally, it changes the dynamic. But equally, Eddie does need to explain what his plan is moving forward. And
which he absolutely will do, and I suspect has been doing all along. He's not contracted to have to tell the public what his plan is.
Yes.
Because obviously that's between him and the England setup in order to try and achieve what he's here to achieve, which is the World Cup next year. I don't hate the way he is with the media. He gets a bit funny with them and a bit short with them. And I know there's lots of chat about how it's professional and you're there to answer questions and things. But I just think if the media are going to basically say that their only objective is to rile him and not actually ask sensible questions and find out sensible information, can we really be that annoyed if he reacts badly to it? I get that it's easy to say, well, he's the boss and it's a professional sport and he should be doing this and he should be acting a certain way and he should be able to deal with it. It doesn't bother me when he kind of loses his shit a little bit with them.
So I'm using media as in it sounds like I'm on team media. What the thing that bugs me about it is shit.
You've disappeared.
Sorry, can you hear me?
You're back now.
Yeah.
Stop putting it on your shoulder.
Yeah, I was laying down there. It's not the media side. It's as a fan, I want to hear answers. I'm interested, and a lot of it is the media's fault by asking questions. But when Eddie comes and he's like, pick five some things, it's like, Eddie, I'm not like. I want more information just because I'm interested, not because I deserve it. But actually, I think the fans do deserve it, and that's where I find it quite annoying. I'd like there to be more I just think there's a way he can go about it, explaining himself.
But is that not the media's fault for asking the wrong questions? Like, we as fans want to know what's going on.
It's a mix of both. I think it is a mix of both.
Well, we as fans want to know what's going on, and the media, for the purposes of ratings, are asking him questions like, "Can you even do this? Can you even take England to the World Cup? Are you the right person? Should someone else be in charge?" Like, that's not.
But fans are asking those questions.
They're not really. England lose, and the fans are hurling accusations saying, "Oh, he's got to go." The fans aren't interested in whether Eddie Jones thinks Eddie Jones needs to go, because of course he's going to say, "No, I don't think I do need to go." The fans want to know. Well, what are you going to do to turn this around? They don't want to know, do you think you're the person to turn it around? I just think let's ask the questions, or at least let's have at least one media outlet that's given access to him after the games, that's asking the right questions to find out the useful information that we all want to know. And then if you want to have the others that are going to come in and try and wind him up, then fine. But I think we're failing to get stuff out of him regarding the England setup and what's going on, because of some of the media outlets that are given access where others aren't. Maybe they need to. What I'm getting at here is, I think the England Rugby Pod should be invited to every England game and given the opportunity to ask Eddie the questions that the fans want answers to.
Mate, that's the smartest thing I've ever heard you say.
Thank you.
I agree. So here's a question, though. Do you think, and I hope this isn't the case, do you think the media, sort of the way this relationship actually harms England rugby to an extent? I can't help but think the likes of a Don Armand, I can't help but think the more Eddie hears about it, it's almost a stubbornness to say, right, I'm not doing it now.
There's been a lot of talk about... Do you think
there's an element to that at all? Or do you think that's all a bit...
There's been a lot of talk.
Hyperbole?
There's been a lot of talk about Eddie supposedly being that sort of person, and if you tell him what you've got to do, then he's, despite whether or not you're right, he's going to go the other way. I'm not convinced that's the case. I think. See, this is a prime example. I've not actually seen an interview where someone has come straight out and just said to Eddie Jones, "Don Armand's been playing really well. What is it about him that doesn't fit with this team? What is it about him that doesn't, that means he's not getting a look in?"
Do you know what, mate? That's a really good point. Because I've definitely had people scratch round the thing, like Don Armand, so he's a good player. But yeah, I don't think anyone's outright said it like that. Well, I think that's a good point. Oh, yeah.
Eddie, if you're listening, give us an answer. We'll start asking you the questions that you want to answer.
Yeah, I'm sure he really wants to answer that.
But I think, but he'll have the point is he'll have his reasons. We may not agree with them, but he'll have his reasons. But I haven't heard them. I mean, there was something about 18 months ago where he said that he kind of fobbed it off a little bit and said he wasn't a fit for the kind of game plan that he had for this England setup or something like that. But I think let's get someone to ask the question specifically and stop asking Eddie Jones if his future is secure with England, because he's got a contract. As far as he's concerned, his future's secure until he gets the sack.
Eddie Jones needs to, and you and I are both believe this. We need to get behind Eddie. We need to. He's going to be our coach for the next World Cup, and if he's not, that is very harmful, I believe, to England rugby.
I 100% agree. I mean, going back to Jerry Guscott, because that's how we got onto this in the first place. He's like the opposite of us. He's the most negative guy. England could go unbeaten now for the next 12 months. They could win the Rugby World Cup, and he'd still predict kind of doom and gloom and talk about how England are going in the wrong direction. And I don't get it. Like, fair enough. You want people who are honest, but is that being honest? I mean, the guy literally is just miserable the whole time.
I reckon there's something going on, because you're absolutely right. I reckon, I know he wakes up each morning and he just bangs his head on the door frame or something every morning because he forgets it's there or whatever, because he's never happy. I've never seen him happy.
So one of the things that he brought up, and he kind of made, in this article you're talking about on the BBC, and he kind of made a big deal about it, was this Farrell Cipriani issue. And, are there already cracks forming between the two of them? But, and I think he said, obviously a lot's been made of this, and then he kind of went on to discuss
to make a lot of it,
the issue. I googled the so-called issue. I couldn't actually find an example of it anywhere. I did manage to watch the clip back, and for those that haven't heard this, which is probably most of you, because apparently Guscott's the only one that's heard it. So when Cipriani put that little kick through, Farrell kind of pulls out of chasing the ball and almost sort of, his head drops a bit like he's a bit annoyed that the pass didn't come to him. But he then kind of almost instantly goes, oh, actually, the kick's good, and carries on again. Now, yeah, Farrell shouldn't have done that. But he's made out that it's this massive issue. Like the captain, Owen Farrell, is really annoyed with Cipriani's decision making, and the two of them can't gel, and Farrell wanted the ball and Cipriani didn't give it, and they're going to be at loggerheads and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, was it really a big deal, or did Farrell just be like, oh mate, and then went, oh actually, and that's the end of that?
And which of us hasn't done that?
Yeah, you think there's we've got a gap here, and you're expecting the ball, and then they decide to kick it. How often have we watched the game and we've seen Ben Youngs or someone go to kick the ball and think, what are you doing? And then the kick turns out to be an absolutely awesome one, and suddenly you've forgotten that you were annoyed about it. You're like, yeah, come on, let's do this.
Exactly.
It happens. If anything, Farrell was just simply in the wrong for not being professional enough to just carry on regardless. But I don't see how that
nature.
I don't see how that suddenly means there's a major issue. So that was a bit weird. If anyone knows anything different to that, because as I say, I've tried to look into it, can't find any more information on it other than what Guscott says. Do let us know, because it'd be interesting to know if I've got this completely wrong. But it didn't appear to be anything to me.
This is something that's also annoying me. A lot's been made about the Ford-Farrell relationship, about how they're best mates, they went to school, different dynamic. This isn't a playground match. This isn't a match where in a playground you pick a team and, you don't want to play with a fat, ugly kid, like Ben Cooper, for example. So this is international rugby. If Cipriani's picked, Farrell's going to get on with it. I think the fact that people are suggesting that they're going to throw the toys out the pram if their mates aren't picked, is getting a bit ridiculous. Yeah. Yes, Ford and Farrell are good mates, great, and that's awesome. But if Cipriani's the best player,
they don't play
Farrell
together.
wants the best player.
Yeah, they don't play together at club level, and you don't see them whining about it. So I don't understand why suddenly, if they're going to play for England, it's necessary.
Yeah, I think too much has been made of that.
Way too much.
International rugby. They're going to be Farrell, Ford, whoever. They're going to get on with it.
So basically, what we're saying is, Guscott, great journalism, mate.
Yeah, good.
All right.
It is an interesting article. I will give him that. But the team he picked for the Autumn International, I didn't like the look of it. It's not bad, but I just didn't like the look of what he picked.
Fair enough, guys. Have a look at it. See what you think. Let us know. So moving on then a little bit. Defence coach. Guscott's obviously leaving. Tour's over now, so he's done with England. He's gone over to Quins. And England need a new defence coach. So initially there were three names in the hat, as far as I can tell. And that was Sean Edwards, Alex Sanderson, who's the Saracens forwards coach, and Sean Wayne, who is the boss at Wigan Warriors. Now, Sean Wayne's gone to Scotland. Yeah,
great for Scotland. Yeah, that's a really good deal for them.
So he's gone to Scotland. Sean Edwards is now being talked about as his replacement at Wigan Warriors, which in theory leaves Alex Sanderson, who...
Well, yeah. So he's been talked about as a replacement. The RFU have got a bit of cash. Can we not make an offer more tempting for him?
I mean, possibly. I guess, how long's he been with Wales and how much of it's rubbed off on him?
Yeah.
Does he now hate England?
No, but he's English.
I know he is.
He doesn't hate England.
He must hate England. He went and worked for Wales.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that the England job was a possibility for him there. I would I'd like Sean Edwards to come in. I think it's the smoothest transition.
Yeah. Well, Alex Sanderson, although he's being talked about, they've also sort of touted him as the future or the next director of rugby at Sarries. So I guess even if he is a possibility. That's quite a big decision to make, isn't it? Because director of rugby at one of the best clubs in the world is a big job.
It's a big
Obviously,
job.
England defence coach is a big job too. But yeah,
and don't forget Paul Guscott went from England defence coach to a director of rugby at a big club.
Yeah, he went the other way around. That's what I'm saying. For him, the director of rugby at a big club was a step up.
Yeah, but it would be for Sanson as well. So
No.
Mark McCall signed a contract for a while. I think he signed to like 2020 or 2021. Oh, okay. So that's still a few years away.
Okay, so he could always do the England job for a few years and then go back.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about Sanson that might be helpful, and again, I'm guessing, but it makes sense, right? But him and Guscott would have worked together, so he'd know what Guscard's strategy was. So that might also help be quite a seamless transition.
Yeah, because we probably don't want massive change. You don't want to.
I don't think we've got time to.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah,
so defense. Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to see which way that goes, because the other two names that I've read recently are now kind of being talked about are Brad Davis of Ospreys and Ali Rogers, the Kiwi.
Ali Rogers, I think is good. Brad Davis, I think is a brilliant coach. I just think it's a bit too untested for me, for my liking.
Yeah,
give him another couple of years,
and it may also be one of those, fake news articles. Someone just thought, oh, here's two names that we'll just chuck out there and see if it gets people like the England Rugby Pod to talk about it on their podcast.
A lot of stuff is put out there purely for that basis.
Exactly, just for us.
Yeah,
it's because we're that big. Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to talk about is the potential return of Chris Ashton. There's talk of him moving back to Sale in order to make himself eligible to play for England in the World Cup next year. Is this big news? I mean, he's had a hell of a season.
Is it big news? So my thought is England will be better for having the option of being able to pick him. And if he's scoring like he was out in France, you can't ignore him, because somebody who's just got that ability to sniff the line. If, for whatever reason, Chris Ashton doesn't come back over because the too long cash for lifestyle, whatever, I don't think it's the end of the world just because we're so strong.
Oh, no, it's 100%. I mean, I only read this recently and it hasn't been officially announced yet. So, and we've always said that the back three is pretty strong once everyone's back to full fitness. I guess my question is, if this does all pan out, and if he does continue to play that level of rugby, and therefore he is very much in contention, if not an early name on the team sheet, where do you play him?
Mate, wing. If he's scoring like he was in France, and he's doing that in the Premiership week in, week out, you play him on the wing and you start him.
For who?
Him and Johnny May at the moment, the way Johnny May's been playing, and then then at fullback you've got the question between Watson or Daly.
Is it not really depressing that Jack Noel might not be able to make the England team anymore?
You're going to have him on the bench. I love Jack Noel, but yeah, I know. No, it's not depressing. It's awesome.
But then you're not having Watson or Daly, as in you're. Do you know what I mean? Like you're saying Watson or Daly
them on the bench.
Well, you can't just fill the bench with wingers.
Say you've got a back three of, for argument's sake, and I'm not, but say you've got Johnny May, Chris Ashton, and let's say Anthony Watson at fullback, and then on the bench, your three benches, you've got a scrum half, and then you've got Elliot Daly and Jack Noel. Don't forget Elliot Daly can fill in a few places. Jack Noel can fill in a few places.
That's true.
Because you want all those guys involved, because they are all quality players. Mate, I'm quite excited at that. How awesome would that choice be?
That wouldn't be a bad back nine, would it?
No, back nine.
Well, it's just there's that many of them.
Right. Yeah, sorry.
But yeah, from my point of view, I think that probably covers everything that we wanted to talk about.
That's an awesome thing to finish on. I'm genuinely excited about this back partnership. Ashton probably won't be coming over at all.
It's probably more fake news just for us.
Yeah.
You're probably right. But there it is. We'll find out from what I've read, they're going to announce it fairly soon if it is the case. Knowing our luck, it's already been announced and we're just being idiots. But yeah, we will see, and obviously once that news comes out officially, if it does, and we'll discuss it in more detail. But guys, thanks for being with us throughout the tour, and obviously for those of you that have been with us for even longer, we really appreciate the support. Please continue to follow us, continue to support us, keep listening, share the love with friends and family and all that jazz. Get in touch with us if you've got anything you want to say. As Dan said at the beginning, we'd love to have you guys on and get you guys involved. I know we've had a few tweets from people saying they'd like to hear more episodes where we kind of interview people or have guests on. So this is kind of a podcast by fans for fans, or however you want to look at it, and therefore, the more of you that we can get involved, the better. So email us englandrugbypod@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Twitter @englandrugbypod, and we're on Facebook as well. But yeah, just keep enjoying what you're doing, and if you get the opportunity, we'd really appreciate any reviews that you can give us. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you'd like to see more of, and we will try to deliver.
Yeah, and guys, don't forget tonight at 7:00, England are playing football, so you all need to go on YouTube and watch a rerun of the 2003 World Cup final.
at 7, yeah?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Cool. Guys, appreciate it, and we will see you next week.
Cheers, guys.